All right, so ignore this. I fell and ruined my head earlier last night off of a skateboard, but I'm gonna show you how to change the factory cluster in a Ford Fusion. And this works for any of the most recent Fusions. I'm doing it on a 2017 Fusion Sport, but basically I'm going to show you how I do it. It's really simple, and I'll leave the link in the video description for the guy who makes these clusters and sells them. But yeah, it's going to be an MKZ / Ford Mondeo, which is the European Fusion. They get a much better cluster than we do, and that is going to be just a tutorial on how to swap in the cluster you buy off of him, or I guess it's a tutorial on how to change any cluster if you ever do need a new cluster for your Fusion. So yeah. So as we know, this is the factory cluster in this car. Honestly, it's pretty, I mean, it's not awful, but I mean, this is the Fusion Sport, and the thing is, the only way to get an RPM gauge, which is one of my biggest gripes, is it's a little tiny digital readout, and you can't have that at the same time as you have, any other option up except for the gas. And then, I mean, you can get this little RPM, gauge right here, but it's pretty awful. So this has to be changed, and I'm gonna show you how. So what you want to do to start disassembling your dash is you need to pull this piece out. So that's actually all one just big connected piece here. Now I've seen some videos where people just kind of grab it, but it's kind of hard to get in there. So if you have a tool like this, a little trim tool of some kind, you can get these at Autos, and I got a set of 4. Just get in there and kind of yank it. It's a little hard. Oops, and I'll come back in a second. All right, so we got it out, and realistically, what I did, it's easiest if you start over here, and there's a crack, and you just pull down, and that's the easiest way to get this thing out. And then you just kind of go around and pull down, and yeah, then it's done. So the next piece you're going to want to take off is this headlight switch here. And the way that's done is there's a bolt right here and a bolt right here. They're both a 7mm size, so just get a ratchet and take those bolts out. So I got both those bolts out, and once that's out, you should just be able to pull it out and kind of let it hang, because what you need to access is this bolt right here. All right, so now that we got this down, we need to get to this bolt and then this bolt here. So same thing, just go ahead, unbolt those, and that's gonna take this silver trim piece out. And so those 2 bolts are out. So the next thing, and also I would definitely encourage you to make sure your steering wheel's down. Grab in here, you see this break of the plastic here and here. Just pull up and kind of pull back, and the whole cluster should just lift off. Unless I'm doing this wrong, this is literally my first time ever taking this out, so I'm gonna stop recording and come back. Okay, so that's out. So there is a clip here and here, so when you're grabbing this and pulling this out, just kind of grab from up here, and then it should just kind of fall out like that, and that is completely detached, and this piece stays in. All right, and now all that's left is this bolt, that bolt in there, and that bolt in there, and that's it. Once you have all those out, you can pull the cluster free, and that's all the bolts. So now the cluster is completely free, and when you pull it out, there is only one wire holding it in. So you just kind of undo the clip, and boom, you've got your factory cluster in your hand. Now, the fun thing here is I'm actually doing this ahead of time, because I am still waiting on the other cluster to come in. It was supposed to be here today, but USPS has delayed it, because they would. So don't do this ahead of time unless you have another car to drive. At the moment, I currently have a Focus ST that I'm trying to sell, and will be driving in the meantime. Hopefully I don't have to wait a day, more than a day, to get the cluster to come in. But you know, you never know with USPS. It was supposed to be here today. It's been delayed, but I wanted to go ahead and get this out. All right, so I'm back a day later. I have a stitches in my head from a skateboard fall. That's unimportant, but the gauges are here. And after a bunch of unwrapping, we have, whoa, there it is, the cluster. All right, so I'm gonna rip off the plastic here. Now I gotta unplug this column. He actually let me know that if you don't have this plugged in, it drains your battery. I don't know why. So if you do this ahead of time like I did, leave this plugged in. But all you do is unplug that. The whole cluster comes out. Set that down there, and now we're gonna plug this in. Oh, come on. This is tight. There we go. Oh. And there's my mileage, and it's on. And then, yeah, all you do is just reassemble the dash like we did, and you're good. So we're gonna do a quick turn on. Okay, turn signal's on. Oh, everything works. Oh, that's so nice. Yes. All right, and that's it. It is in. Everything's there. It all works. Tachometer, speedo. I'm about to take on a test drive. But yeah, so the left screen is controlled with this, and then the right screen is controlled with this. So this is how it'll come if you order it. The only difference between yours and a basic one that he'll make you is the red needles. They're normally blue, but I asked him for red needles, and then also this image of the Fusion in the middle there. That also is an extra charge. So he charged me $625 for the setup, and then an additional $50 for these extra logos, which I think was well worth it. He programmed my mileage ahead of time. I left my car sitting. I have a Ford Focus ST that I've been driving in the 3 or 4 days it took for this to arrive, so that was fine. You can program your mileage if you want. I've just never done Forescan, so I didn't really feel comfortable with that. But yeah, and we're gonna go ahead and take another drive. So just to show everything's working, I got the speedo working, we got the tachometer working, everything scrolls through, works just fine. Actually, a little tidbit I just noticed is, because my car has nav, it actually tells me what the current speed limit is right now inside of those gauges. That's a feature I did not expect. That's really cool. But yeah, it's got my fuel economy, it's got all that, and then as you can see, if I step on it a little, all the gauges are working. So yeah. Now, I'm sure this is really obvious, but definitely do keep the factory cluster for a couple of reasons. One, obviously, it's the factory part. It's the genuine part that came with the car. So even if you never have any intentions to reinstall this ugly cluster, of course, you know, the person who buys the car off of you down the road might want this cluster for whatever reason, or you know, for any reason, and maybe that new cluster breaks for some reason and you need a cluster, then you don't have to go spend money on a new one. You can just swap this one back in unless you really want to buy a new one. You know, but for obvious reasons, for me, my biggest reason that I'm going to go ahead and keep this cluster is because I actually bought a extended warranty, 100 or 75,000 extended warranty, bumper to bumper coverage on my Fusion from AutoNation, where I bought my car. And they, you know, I just don't want to risk avoiding that warranty for any reason. So if I have any sort of electrical issue happen, or if I have to take it in for service of any kind, like under that warranty, my intention on that is going to actually be to swap this cluster back into the car, because it was so easy that it only took like 15 minutes to do, you know, to get this one in my hand. Go ahead and swap this one back in, write the mileage, match it up with what it actually is on the replacement MKZ cluster with the with Forescan, and put that mileage on this cluster. That way the mileage reads accurately when I take it in, so I'm not lying or doing anything illegal or wrong there, making sure everything's on the up and up with that. So that would be my intention. If I ever do have to take it in for service, and that's the main reason I'm going to keep this cluster, just because it's so easy to swap in and out. It took me, like I said, 15 minutes to knock this out, probably 15 minutes to reinstall the old one. So, you know, to write the mileage with FORScan overall, I'd be looking at probably 45 minutes to an hour at most to get that done, and then have no questions asked whenever I take this car in for service at the dealership. So, you know, for many reasons, keep the cluster, but those are my big ones, and that's what I would definitely recommend you do if you do this mod.